Looking in on Outside Music, a radio magazine featuring the sounds and ideas of musicians working outside of the mainstream. This is a production of COMA, the California Outside Music Association. The Motor Totemist Guild, a Los Angeles-based ensemble, plays what they refer to as electronic chamber music. In this genre, traditional classical instruments are combined with those of the electronic age. The members of the Motor Totemist Guild are Lynn Johnston, who plays a variety of woodwinds, Becky Henninger, amplified cello, James Grigsby, synthesizer, bass, trumpet, and percussion. The group primarily performs music written by James Grigsby, but also plays totally improvised music and has been known to perform pieces by such diverse composers as Thelonious Monk and Olivier Messiaen. We'll be talking with the Guild shortly, but first, let's hear some of their music. What's the story behind the group getting together? How did it develop into a performing ensemble?
After putting out at great personal expense a record of music made at home, it seemed about time to put together a performance ensemble. So after about 2 or 3 abortive attempts at getting musicians together, I got a call from Deborah Exit, the poet. She was interested in some musical accompaniment, and it seemed like the right thing to do at the time. It was also a good excuse to get out and play in front of people, which I hadn't done for a few years. So one of our, like a second or third gig or something, she booked this thing at Bebop Records. And Slovenly Peter was among the bands. There was a crazed baritone sax player there, and I kept sticking my head in the bell of his saxophone because it sounded absolutely incongruous to the rest of the band. Yeah, so if you can imagine this band just blowing their brains out in the middle of Bebop Records. Lynn was running up and down the aisles between the records, and I'm right behind him with my ear in the bell of this baritone saxophone. So afterwards, I introduced myself and asked him if he read music. The rest is history.
So Becky, why did you decide to play in a band? I mean, your background is probably in orchestral or classical performance.
This is all true, but lately what I've been gearing myself towards is becoming a recording engineer, writing the console and the faders and the really expensive digital equipment. And playing in a band seemed like the ideal way to keep playing the cello. It's a low-pressure kind of way to play. you're not under the same kind of, God, look at that person, they're playing so terribly. I love the way the audience hates them, which is what classical music to me is a large degree all about. And I don't function really well under that kind of pressure.
Described yourselves as electronic chamber music. How do you make such an unusual approach work, especially given the strange instrumentation?
One of the keys to success is that we are a heterogeneous. Is that the word I want? All of our instruments are different. I mean, what we're doing timbrally is very distinct. We don't really bump into each other's territory, hardly at all. I think that's one of the big things. Also, is people's backgrounds.
Yeah.
Is that Becky's is classical music, Jim's is classical music and commercial rock. Mine is probably free jazz and composition. So we don't really have that much common ground to bump into. It's not like we play two instruments. That's like two things really strongly in common. He actually gets his music debugged. That's probably one of the fun things, is that we get things. Some of the music is old things that he's reprocessed, but some of it is very new. And so we actually have the fun of kind of debugging the parts.
And the other day I was listening, I have a tape of music that I had played when I was in college. And in those days, I was playing in a rock group, and I would get some of my ideas played in that context, and then I'd work on these pieces that would take me maybe 4 to 6 months to compose, and totally arrange, and then I'd get 2 rehearsals and a performance of them, and realize that not only was the performance incredibly lame, but I had made some serious mistakes in the orchestration. Now I'm actually learning a lot more because I can get rid of those orchestration mistakes real quick.
things that aren't notated, i.e. free improvisations, is that of your making, Lynn, or your influence, or...
Yeah, probably to some degree that is my influence, because I am an improviser. I've always enjoyed improvising. When I was at Pomona College, I had the chance to be around Bobby Bradford and David Murray and Stanley Crouch, and that probably was something that influenced me. I spend a lot of time listening to Evan Parker records these days. But yeah, I like the improvisational thing is really important. It's really important to me, and I like improvising a structure, not just improvising, but trying to create a living structure with different things going on.
Now, I know you do a lot of the extended technique, even more so than. More like what Murray was doing a few years ago.
Yeah, more like what he was doing 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I growl a lot, and I do a lot of multiphonic things when I play, because I happen to like thick sounds. I happen to like the distinction between a thin sound and a thick sound. I happen to, if anything, my design improvisation are probably influenced by classical music. People like Ligeti, especially, have influenced my ideas on improvisation. And the fact that as three people that we can sometimes improvise as densely as we can really impresses me and shocks me, because I like that, because most improvisation to me seems really thin texturally. I think the creation of a texture is important in improvisation. I think that's kind of neglected. People will create good lines, but they won't be able to play together effectively. And I think that's something that's important, and Becky has become like huge in that. Yeah, the cello is infinitely useful. It's the electric guitar of electronic chamber music.
In the year and a half or so that I've known you, you seem to get along just as well in social situations as you do in musical situations.
Yeah, this band gets along so well because we all like the same beverages and
Which being
ales and stout.
Yeah. Our tummies are in the United Kingdom just to a large degree.
Except for when it comes to food, and now it's Asian.
Right. Let's talk about these eating rituals.
Yeah, it's difficult. Well, a lot of bands take drugs just before their gigs. We eat a lot of food.
We take
before our
food
gigs.
before.
Large quantities of food. Usually spicy, usually Asian food. Sometimes Szechuan, sometimes Thai. Luckily, and we can't really go on tour. We got all this equipment. It's hard to find a good Szechuan restaurant in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, ritual is very important. That's very important. You don't have to, if you have rituals, you don't have to rehearse as often.
We just heard Beneath the Wheel, which is a new piece for the group. Could you just describe a little bit of the development of that?
That one, you know, that melody, by the way, was written after reading Kurt Sock's discussions of primitive vocal music. There's a certain style where the singer will start out with a very high melodic interval and then fill in the spaces in between. You know, and that's the basis of that melody.
Well, it begins with almost a melisma.
And that's apparently an archetypal form for a melody to take.
The name gets a lot of attention largely because it's so cryptic. Could you define or at least give an example of motor totemism?
Well, if you listen very carefully in the background, you'll hear someone which is describing a certain harmonic progression which is unrelated to what I'm saying. Now, on the other hand, Becky has chosen not to emit any sounds whatsoever. Now, I think this is the best demonstration we can give of the concept of motor totemism.
We've been talking with the Motor Totemist Guild, James Grigsby, Lynn Johnston, and Becky Henninger. The Motor Totemist Guild's music is available through Rotary Totem Records. Rotary Totem Records has also released the first in a series of compilation albums featuring music by COMA members. Looking In on Outside Music is a production of the California Outside Music Association, COMA. This is your host, Titus Levi.